자, 봅시다. 창의성이라는 것은, 발명이라는 것은 어떤 개념의, 어떤 응용의, 창조라는 것은 당연히 개소리고 연결을 통해서 분석이 되는 방식으로 한다. 이 책의 이름은 생각의 탄생, 로버트 루벤슈타인? 이라는 친구가 지었나 잘 모르겠고, 춤이 예술이라기보다는 퍼즐처럼 인식되었다. 그 조각 하나하나는 형태의 리듬이었다. 가나는 춤의 요소들 안에 내재한 고유의 모든 패턴들을 찾아낸 것이었다. 동작들이 시대지 않은 방식으로 해체될 때, 그리고 새로운 형식으로 조합될 때, 단순한 요소들이, 기본적인 요소들이 조합해서 만드는 것은 그냥 모든 지식의 기본 형태이고, 뇌의 모든 정보들은 그 조합되는 기본 단위, 그것의 배치로 만들어지며 그것의 정확한 복사인 언어 또한 A부터 Z까지 그렇다. 단순한 요소들이 결합해서 복잡한 것을 만들어낸다는 것은 패턴 형성에 따른 본인의 특징이다. 우리가 보이는 모든 사건들은 빨강에서 거기까지 일정하게 혼합된 것이다. 오직 4개의 핵산 염기만으로 지구상 전생명체의 모든 유전자 정보가 암호화된다. 자연 상태에서 파악된 모든 단백질은 20개 아미노산의 알파벳으로 이루어져 있다. 우주 안에는 수억 개의 화학물질은 불과 100개 미만의 요소들이 조합되어 만들어진 것이다. 그리고 이진법이라는 것도 1진법은 안 되겠지. 하나밖에 없으니까 그 다음에 최소 단위가 2야. 구분을 해야 되니까 조합을 만드는 거는 하나로 못 만들어. 하나로 만들 수 있는 조합은 하나지. 있다 없다도 못해. 하나가 있다가 가정이니까. 하나가 있다 없다 이건 2개지. 그래서 이진법인 거야. 1과 2가 아니고 0과 1도 이진법이야. 있다가 아니라 있다 없다 2개지. 보스보든 어떤 점이든 장음 단음이든 컴퓨터든 어쨌든 전부 다 똑같은 거고. 피타고라스의 정리를 증명한 방법만 해도 300가지가 넘는다는 것은 그 논리를 바꾸진 않지만 그 논리가 어디까지 적용될 수 있는지를 말해주지. 더 많은 패턴을 발명할수록 우리는 더 많은 실제 지식을 소유하게 될 것이고 우리의 이해는 더 풍요로워질 것이다. 이게 지식이 만들어지는 방법이야. 정확하게 사실이지. 단순함 속의 다양성은 모든 공학의 기본이고 모든 학문의 기본이고 모든 거의 기본이지. 모든 지식의 구조고. All the complex machines are made of the basic elementary parts combination: lever, wheels, screws, gears, elements. For those basic parts are combined as to operate for its purpose for making it. Combined. 발명은 invention is just a different combination of those basic elements into new logic, new chain of structures. Lego, Tinker Toy. 레고는 제한된 숫자의 조립 단위로 상상력을 무한히 펼칠 수 있는 기회를 제공한다. 정확한 말이야. 뭐겠어? Is any of this part wrong? It goes extended. Lego. 물리학과 컴퓨터 과학의 친구 MIT 미디어 랩의 미첼 레즈닉은 레고 친구와 공동으로 마인드스톰을 개발했다. 컴퓨터로 조종되는 모터와 레고 블록을 합쳐서 그 디지털과 물리학의 장점을 서로 가지고 와서 레고를 통해서 어떤 것을 만드는데 그 과정을, 그 목적을 만들 수 있을 뿐만 아니라 부속품 자체를 제공해가지고 혼자 아무거나 만들 수 있도록 하는 거지. 다른 조립용 장난감들도 이와 유사한 건데, 주브란 것은 5개의 기본 조립 단위만 가지고 있고, 그리고 그 친구는 유전학자이기도 했는데 DNA의 구성 단위에 비유해서 어떤 언어나 알파벳에도 견줄만 하고 무엇이든지 조립할 수 있으며 DNA 모델도 저절로 만들어 볼 수 있다고 했다. 키넥스라는 것도 부품 수는 제한되어 있는데, 이 장난감을 발명한 화가이자 작가인 조앤 글링은 이것을 3차원 크레용이라고 불렀다. 결과물의 복잡성이 부속이나 요소 자체의 복잡성보다 그 기본적인 단위를 복잡하게 만드는 거지, 단순한 것들이 복잡하게 된 거야. 어떤 모든 복잡한 것들은 그 구조를 나눠서 보면 그렇게 복잡하지 않지. 네가 만들어봐, 족같은 새끼야. The reason of why all those bloody ignorant matters, all the shitty problems are rising is that it doesn't know that it is just a tiny part of the entire span of evolutions in all of those histories, that it just is a tiny spot which will soon disappear, and all of those learnings that have been accumulated as the one to know that knowledge, the exact logic process has to be followed from its origin to the result, not from just seeing what the result was and going back to the origin in the reverse direction. Having a learning in a reverse direction from the result to the origin, not the accurate process, origin to the result, it diminishes by the fucking structure the diversity of creation, because it solidifies, just defines what the result is and making it to be fit onto the cause. From the reverse one, from starting the cause, the results that can be made by applying those basic elements can be varied, and the one has to realize that at any given moment a certain level of accumulated knowledge only refers for only the tiny part of vast unexplored knowledges. Only it accounts for tiny part of examples that was made for knowing to discover new combinations, new applications, from knowing those like 10 examples, creating another, okay? The one has to know at certain step of development of knowledge is just containing only small fraction of entire possible examples. So just defining, solidifying, and like informations that are written in the book, any lecture is like indispensably unchanging. Monkey does not know that it can change, and it sometimes can just wrong, can just not right, and it can be advanced because it isn't the one who made it and wrote this very fucking book that you're looking in. From the original initiator, creator on the past 100, 200, 300, many hundred and thousands years ago, real maker really made on itself. Ignorant monkeys are arising after the brilliant boys are demised. When the smart guys, smart brilliant boys who created the very knowledge is dying, diminishes, and the ignorant boys for not any knowing the history of predecessors who made a lot of learning for creating on its own. But the ignorant boys really ignorant on all of those disciplines and just looking at a fucking ignorant book and thinks like this is like a Bible. The learning is not reading a book. Writing a book is a learning. None of any results are predetermined. That is indispensable. All learnings that you are seeing now, I can either be a false one, turn out to be, or just a tiny example, or because of that, even though it being a true information, but it is very partialized, and very subjective that it almost is wrong for only saying that information. So for the exact accurate procedure of learning is to start it from the origin of the very learning to the extension of its applications towards this time of till, make that consecutive straight right course, and you realize that the current state and any state of any given moment of learning is just a tiny example towards what are possible to create from that. You make those all ignorant problems are diminished when the one makes its own knowledge by experimenting on its own, by creating, by writing its own book, by making hypotheses and prove on its own. Not reading any of book, not having any lecture, not having any source from other fucking monkeys, not buying a book, but you write a book by making your own experiment. One time you realize that reading a book is just either, number one, source of basic element to know the genuine information. Number two, just an example of its application. Has to be created from the very beginning. Says 효과적인 방법은 다른 누군가가 만드는 구조를 그 결론을 단순 암기하도록 연병을 떨지 않는 것이고, 주기율표란 것을 허튼 수작을 많이 해서 자기가 뭘 하는지 모르고 훌륭한 친구가 죽고 멍청한 자기가 태어났다는 사실조차 모르면서 그 훌륭한 친구가 그것을 네가 지금 바로 공부하는 그 정보를 만들기 위해서 어떤 것을 했는지 꿈에도조차 모른 채 이상한 것도 하고 허튼 수작도 하고 개소리도 짓거리면서 주인공 자기가 병신한 사실을 모르고 주기율표를 외우게 한다. 저 멘델리예브스키라는 것은 What's his name? Dmitry Mendeleev. That man didn't make to just copy. It made for the purpose of organizing the fucking elements. Diverse ones, but it has a rule, but it has a correlation. It made a table for dividing at least two criterions as two organized by that row. Just not randomly deploying, but literally organized by its logic, by the very essence. Its purpose was to make a system that is very easier to see. What means easy? Meaning, when the one knows 10 information, it can infer by the logic of high correlation more than 3, for once, not the hard one, which is having same exact 10 information but it cannot infer more than one because of the lack of correlation. Dmitry Mendeleev's purpose for making the table was to easily be understood by organizing by its very essence of logic. And the successor monkeys and after the sees the demise of the greatest boy Dmitry Mendeleev, and other fucking monkeys are tumbling its dick and having it full of ignorance and just trying to monkeyize. 이와 마찬가지로 기하학을 공부하는 친구들은 허튼 수작을 부리지 말고 자기가 만드는 상상하는 것들에 대해서 분석을 해보고 증명을 해볼 수 있도록 그냥 자기가 혼자 전부 다 해야 된다는 사실을 알게 될 것이다. 네가 씨발 어떤 책을 보든 간에 그건 그냥 예시야. 과학사를 보면은 많은 과학자들이 자기 깨달음을 표현하기 위해 어떤 것을 해보기 위해 족같은 거대한 적같은 실험들을 졸라 많이 시도했음을 알 수 있다. 아 그때는 지식이 아무것도 없었어. 뭐 알려면 어떻게 하겠어. 병신새끼야. 자기가 혼자 다 했다니까. 씨발 족같은 학교에 가고 족같은 학원에 가고 족같은 유튜브를 듣고 족같은 책을 읽고 이런 거 안 했다고. 너는 책이 씨발 책에 적혀있는 게 다 사실인 것 같아? 모든 게 다 가치 있는 것 같아? 그게 그렇다고 생각한다면 너는 그 저자, 즉 다른 원숭이, 너하고 똑같이 멍청한 원숭이가 전부 다 맞다고 생각하는 거야. 그리고 인생을 10년이 아니라 1000년을 살다 보면 모든 게 다 틀렸다는 사실도 알게 되지. 표준 교과서란 이상한 것들에서 획일화된 허튼 공식을 가르쳐 과학 분야에서의 자유로운 사고를 화석화하기 전의 일이다. Brilliant boys are dying and ignorant monkeys are arising from the diseased tomb of brilliance, whose existence by itself is unknown by the very essence for what the name it refers to. itself. 혼자 어떤 패턴을 만들고 혼자 규정하고 혼자 탐구하는 것은 분해하면서 조입하는 것은 그 과정을 이루는 기본 요소들에 대해서 진짜 이해를 만들고 새로운 지식을 만들게 된다. 자, 지식을 만드는 과정은 학교에 가는 게 아니고 남극에 떨어져서 너 혼자 사는 거야. 그게 지식이야. 알았지? When the one wants to, what the essence of knowledge is, from starting the life forms, the existence's necessitation to retain, sustain, maintain its very state of existence. It has to eat, it has to fight, it has to do whatever to maintain its state of life form called survival. From the survival, its very origin, the learning was started. The purpose of learning is to control, exact synonym with understanding. So, by the very essence, when the one wants to, what the knowledge is, either it experiences itself in any environment, reading a genuine book and having a genuine lecture by a genuine boy, or like just having a plane starting from the like California to Brazil and have a plane crash going down to the center of Amazon and just live from that. The one would really, like instantaneously realize what knowledge has to be needed for the one to survive in order for the one to advance control from that environment. That is the very start of how the origination of knowledge was started. The one really realizes that as to not being stimulated by the changing environment of weather, other animals, insects, uh, all the even atmosphere for the changing variables of constituents that make up the earth, it has to not like other animals waiting until be intimidated, until be stimulated, which requires a in fucking inevitable in indispensable change by the changed environment, the so as you too. But the real learning is to initiate yourself that there are a lot of animals in this sphere of earth, but only does the initiative learning is the scientist, mathematician, engineer, technician of monkey. Those monkeys in existence of all the world, spanning over 1 million count, they are making the advancement, the genuine boys. And all other animals in existence, none of them can make the initiative learning. And they only make the learning which they do not know itself, but to be controlled by the controller. Its center's name is DNA, until the very stimulation that requires the change of themselves is inflicted upon them, making a disease of its species, not the unit itself, making a substantial destabilization of its species, making the excruciating, the painful evolution followed by the changed environment. Yeah. From experiencing that, you realize that, oh, learning has to be made by on your own, not just waiting in the fucking bloody comfortable shadow when the asteroid comes down and having a direct hit on your fucking forehead, and you suddenly realizes that, oh, you have to build a ship for the rainy day. As all others, genuine learning, exact, accurate learning has to be made in longer terms. Do not have any hesitation nor hastened, okay? Just feel it, taste it, just wait it, and look for a more easier one. Going to the more fundamental, read a lot of kind of books, just explore it, okay? The amusement of science is to discover and exploring. Making imagination, okay, as its origin. Be more amused, okay? Now, it is not very well understood for the world of more smaller units, as different from the macro worlds as we have been experienced and on which we have been in experiment. But in micro boys, like quantum mechanics, it is just a mechanics, okay, for how it works on its structure, on the quantized quantum boys, for smaller particles, for how and why, or why, a question on why, not rather than how, would rather be very illogical, because on why, because it says because it is exactly the exact essence of it. So having no question on why, but to follow because it is exactly the sense for what it is really now. So imagining a world where all matters are governed by not how it acts in our world as items but other units, but as to work coherently, consistently on its logic, it has to be accurate. And this universe, for its possibilities, are just a few possibility of the entire one. The entire one we cannot define until we exactly know our fucking world. So it is not unconditionally and definitively all roads, all ways are defined by that quantum voice. It is not. Well, it is in this universe, but in other kind, for the theoretically making in an ideal another kind of world, we can make another basic element that make up of the material. But it is just imagination until we do know our world, okay? So we have to focus on as to how it works. So the physicist boys are just following and making experiments to discover what the fuck is this now. Yeah. Questioning on why would rather be very not helpful because unless there is a cause as a reason as to why it acts like that, it has no meaning. But let's say there are 10 steps for discovering from the start of 10 to the 0, okay? To the 0. Now going to 0, it has to go down superficially 10, 9, 8, 7, and we go down to 0. And why is there a 0 on which we cannot answer? And why is there a 1 we can answer? Because there is a 0 made, which made the process of making 1. So we can make an answer on from 10, 9, 8 to 1, but as its last predecessor, meaning a first creator, 0 ahead of 1, we cannot, by the essence, we cannot question why there is a 0. Why it acts like that? Oh, because we cannot answer because it's just the first step of creation. So we question on what the fucking instant made this particular creation, this particular, really, particle. So the word particular is a combination of particle, ULAR, like particle-like, okay? What produced? It can only be answered when we go down to deep and face up until, not the 1 going down toward the 0. At which point can we really make an answer as to why the 0 was created? If we don't understand why the 0 was created, even though we can answer why 10 was because of 9, why 8 was because of 7, why is
Why 3 was because of 2. Why 1 was because of 1, because of 0. But why the 0 was created out of literally can be seen as nothing. No, there is no nothing. 1 was created by 0. 2 was created by subsequently 1 and 2 and 3 per by added 1. But the genesis for the question of why the 0 was created was it can only be understood when we are going to the 0, the first step of creation. Until then, it is just imagination, faulty, meaningless imagination. So the good example is this passage. We have to make, as to evolve our knowledge, the mad scientist, the crazy, like a science so fucking stupid, the crazy experiment, crazy scientist, were questioning on this passage. 이론적으로 존재하는 가장 낮은 온도는 마이너스 273.16도이며 이를 절대 온도 0K라고 한다. 케빈이든 켈빈 클라인이든 실제로 0K까지의 물체의 온도를 낮출 수는 없지만 자, 이것에 대해서 왜 273도인가? 중요한 건 뭐야? 이보다 더 낮춰보자. 한계가 정해진 이유는 거기에서 뭔가 마치 변곡점처럼 무엇이 상태가 상변화처럼 뭐가 갑자기 바뀌기 때문이지. 초전도체처럼 결국 그것이 어떤 상태를 유지하다가 마이너스 273도가 아니라 4도로 가면은 일단 뭐가 안 먹히는 거야. 오케이? 중요한 그 물질의 본질이 중요해. 어떤 거를 낮추는 게 아니라 어떤 거의 온도를 낮추는 게 아니라 물질의 온도를 낮추는 거기 때문이지. 정의가 중요하지. 첫 번째, 물질의 본질이 무엇인가? 그 물질은 무엇으로 이루어져 있는가? 그리고 그 무엇에 대해서 더 깊게 들어가야지. 계속 나눠봐야 돼. 그거를 계속 나눠봐야 돼. 계속 자르고 나눠봐야 돼. 계속 더 안으로 깊이 들어가야지. 그리고 온도라는 것의 정의가 무엇인가? 온도라는 것은 우리가 알고 있기로는 하나의 전자기파 인프라레드라고 하는 적외선의 형태로 일렉트로마그네틱 웨이브가 발산이 될 수 있다는 것도 말을 하지만 실제로 그 EM 웨이브가 만들어지는 이유가 무엇인가 중요하지. 뭐 실제로 0K까지 물체의 온도를 낮추는 방법, 씨발 제거하겠지. 무조건 물질에 대해서 알아야 돼. 그리고 274도까지 낮춰보는 거지. 더 낮춰보는 거야. 그러한 방법 중 하나가 레이저 냉각이다. 레이저 냉각을 이해하기 위해서 일단 우선 온도라는 것이 무엇일까를 보면은 물질을 한번 자세히 보면은 더 깊게 보면은 많은 수의 원자가 모인 집단에서 그 원자들은 끊임없이 서로 충돌하며 왜 다양한 속도로 운동한다. 운동을 하지 말라고 했겠지. 이때 절대 온도는 원자들의 평균 운동 속도의 제곱에 비례하는 양으로. 왜 제곱일까? 그냥 비례한 게 아닐까? 원자들의 평균 운동 속도. 그래서 어떤 원자의 집단에서 원자들의 평균 운동 속도를 감소시키면 운동 속도를 감소시키면 집단의 원자 온도가 내려가고 그 반대는 반대다. 레이저 냉각을 이용하면 상온 300K 20도 27도에서 대략 200m 초당 200m의 평균 속도를 갖는 그 기체 상태의 루비디움이라는 친구를 그 평균 속도를 원래 10,000분의 1까지 즉 공 4개를 깎아버릴 수 있다. 그렇다면 레이저를 이용해 어떻게 원자의 운동속도를 감소시킬 수 있을까? 날아오는 농구공에 정면으로 씨발 야구공을 던져서 부딪히게 하면 농구의 속도가 조금은 느려지지. 그만큼 그 속도만큼 그 힘만큼 그 질량만큼 마찬가지로 빠르게 움직이는 원자에 레이저 빛을 쏘아 충돌시키면 원자의 속도가 줄어진다. 이때 속도와 질량의 곱이 운동량이고 따라서 속도가 줄어드니까 질량은 일정하고 따라서 일단 운동량의 그 속도가 차는 만큼 들어가지. 질량이 변하는 빛은 전자기파라는 파동이면서 동시에 광자랑 입자기도 하기 때문에 아니 신기하지. 실증이 둘 중에 하나이지만은 않을 거야. 그러니까 잘못해서 그냥 파동이고 잘못해서 파동은 없고 그냥 입자고 이건 아닐 거야. 왜 빛이라는 게 뭐고 그 친구는 왜 다른 거하고 다르게 파동도 있고 입자고 둘째 가고 그거 씨발 파동과 입자가 동시에 어떻게 만들어지는 거에 대해서 질문을 하는 거는 지금까지 우리가 가지고 있는 지식으로는 설명이 안 되지. 왜 두 개를 가지고 있느냐 이거는 질문해도 답이 없어. 질문이 기원에 대한 거기 때문에 기원에 대해서 알 수가 있지 않으면은 답이 없는 질문이야. 왜 두 개냐? 왜 동시에 입자이면서 파동이냐? 질문해도 이제 답이 없지 얘는. 결국 입자도 갖고 있기 때문에 운동량을 갖는다. 광자는 빛의 파장에 반비례하는 운동량을 가지며 진동수에 비례한다. 즉 파장과 진동수는 반비례. 당연하지. 파장 어떤 하나의 같은 구간에 파장이 있다면은 그것은 길이인데 진동수라는 건 그 길이가 엄청나게 많이 반복이 돼야 되는데 그 파장이 길다면 진동수가 적다는 거잖아. 그림으로 해야겠지. 레이저 빛은 햇빛과 같은 일반적인 빛과 달리 일정한 진동수, 햇빛과 같은 경우는 울트라 바이올렛과 인프라 레드 그리고 비지블 그 사이에 있는 라이트뿐만 아니라 다른 그러니까 많은 대역폭의 많은 폭의 이제 range. It emits a wide range of electromagnetic waves not only including infrared and ultraviolet and so visible right inside of its range but also wide range, but the laser goes only by the photons that have a constant frequency. constant 진동수 vibration rate. 레이저 빛을 구성하는 광자가 원자에 흡수될 때 광자의 에너지만큼 원자의 내부 에너지가 커지면서 광자 운동량이 원자에 전달되고 실제 상황에서 초당 200m의 속도로 다가오는 그 루비디움 원자에 레이저 빛을 쏘아서 여러 개의 광자를 연이어 루비디움 원자에다가 맞붙여서 충돌시키면 원자를 거의 정지시킬 수 있다. 이해가 안 된다고? 이해가 안 되지. 이거 왜? 실제로 본 적이 없으니까. 이게 문제가 그거야. 양재학이라는 그 친구는 아니 씨발 족같은 실험을 해봐야 알지. 아니 네가 씨발 상상을 해서 뭐해. 상상에 대한 근거가 없는데 모르는 것에 대해서 네가 어떻게 상상해. 모르는 것에 대해서 네가 알고 있는 정보가 몇 개가 있다면 그것을 족같이 연결을 이것저것 시도해 보면서 뭘 알 수 있겠지만 아예 모르는 존재에 대해서는 어떻게 하겠어. 족같이 씨발 실험을 해봐. 손으로 종이에다 엿먹은 것처럼 끄적이지 말고. 그런데 원자를 하나하나 따로 관측할 수 없고 각 원자의 운동 속도에 맞추어 해야 하는 이제 운동량을 따로 지할 수도 없으므로. 근데 이를 간단하게 하는 방법은 도플러 효과라는 건데 The Doppler effect is not by the name but simply when there is a one stand by and the other one going like an ambulance and having a sirens for emitting a certain frequency, constant frequency, and it goes from farther towards you, it goes well more certain, more louder, and going farther is just the exact opposite, shallower, smaller. 이처럼 빛이란 소리와 같은 파동을 발생시키는 파동 원과 그리고 관측자가 서로 멀어질 때는 진동수가 더 작게 감지되고 가까워지면 진동수가 더 크게 감지된다. 원래 진동수와 감지된 진동수의 차이는 파동 원과 관측자의 거리에 따라서 그 차이가 가까워지면은 가까운 거고 멀어지면은 먼 거다. 이것을 레이저와 원자에 적용하면 레이저 과원은 파동 원이고 원자가 관측자에 있으면서 레이저와 원자가 즉 파동 원과 광자와 원자가 가까이 있으면 진동수가 더 높게 감지되고 한편 정지 있는 특정한 원자는 이유가 뭐야? 정지 있는 그 특정한 원자는 모든 진동수에 빛을 흡수하는 것이 아니고 고유한 진동수, 공명 진동수에 빛만을 흡수한다. 원자가 광자를 흡수할 때 원자 내부의 전자가 특정 에너지 레벨에서 그보다 더 높은 특정 에너지 레벨로 옮겨가는 것만 허용하기 때문이다. 여기다 또 질문하면 뭐해? 왜 그러냐고 씨발. 얘는 이유가 있지 않을까? 원자가 광재를 흡수할 때 원자 내부의 전자가 특정 에너지 레벨에서 certain level of energy towards the another level of energy excitement leaping up 이때 흡수된 광재 에너지는 두 에너지 레벨의 차이 어떻게 도플러 효과를 이용하여 레이저 냉각을 수행합니다. 어떤 원자의 집단이 있고 거기에 양쪽에서 레이저 빛을 원자에 주되 그 진동수를 원자의 공명 진동수보다 작게 한다. 원자가 한쪽 레이저 빛의 방향과 반대 방향으로 움직이면 도플러 효과에 의해서 원자에서 감지되는 레이저 빛 진동수가 커지는데 원자가 한쪽 레이저 빛의 방향과 서로 가까워진다는겨? 그 값이 자신의 공명 진동수에 해당하는 원자는 레이저 빛을 흡수하게 된다. 오케이. 해당하는 것만 하고 끝나면은 바뀌는 건가? 다른 걸로? 이때 흡수된 광재 에너지는 그 준위 차이보다는 작지만 레벨 차이보다는 작지만 원자는 도플러 효과 때문에 공명 진동수를 갖는 광자를 받아들인 것처럼 낮은 준위 있던 거를 낮은 레벨을 허용된 레벨에 올려놓는다. 그런 불안정해진 원자는 잠시 후에 그 차이만큼 해당하는 에너지를 갖는 광자를 방출하면서 전자를 밑에 있던 레벨로 내려놓는다. 이 과정이 반복된 동안 원자가 광자를 흡수할 때에는 일정한 방향에서 오는 광자와 부딪혀 원자의 운동 속도가 계속 줄어들지만 그것을 내놓을 때에는 임의의 방향으로 방출하기 때문에 그 광자의 방출은 원자의 속도 변화에 영향을 미치지 못하게 된다. 원자에서 광자를 선택적으로 흡수하고 방출하는 과정이 반복되면 결국 원자의 속도가 평균 속도가 줄고 원자 집단 전체의 온도가 늘어나게 된다. 보면 그 값이 자신의 공명 진동수에 해당하는 원자는 레이저 빛을 흡수하고 흡수된 광자의 에너지는 그보다 작지만 왜 그러지? 준위 차이보다 작지만 원자는 도플러 효과 때문에 공명 진동수를 갖는 그 광자를 받아들인 것처럼 낮은 레벨에 있던 전자를 더 높은 레벨에 올려놓는다. 그러면 불안정해진 원자는 잠시 후에 불안정이라는 것은 자기가 어떤 특정 포지션을 취하려고 한다는 거지. 그럼 자기 포지션에서 외부의 압력, 외부의 공격을 받아서 이제 변해진 거야. 중요한 거는 그 포지션이 변했다는 사실과 자기가 변했다는 거를 알고 이제 다시 원래의 상태로 돌아가게 한다는 게 중요한 건데 외부의 공격이 지속적으로 있으면은 특정 레벨에 계속 머무를 거고 그렇지 않고 그 공격이 끊기면은 다시 내려간다고 어떻게 그게 가능하지? 원자가 광자를 흡수할 때는 일정한 방향에서는 광자와 부딪혀 원자의 운동 속도가 계속 줄어들지만 원자가 광자를 자기가 내놓을 때에는 다른 방향으로 방출하기 때문에 광자의 방출이 원자의 속도 변화에 영향을 미치지 못하게 된다. 중요한 것은 원자가 광자를 선택적으로 흡수하고 그와 다른 방향으로 방출하면 서로의 길이 간섭이 되지 않게 됨에 따라 속도가 줄어들면서
Well, just had made a lot of speeches for tens of 20 minutes, but I'll record it again because this brain, cannot record for all of those pure data from 0 to 100 for its perfection rate because this brain only retains what has the most value. That is the reason of why the remainder of data, while it has a relevance but not as much as importance as it retains at the core computer, the remainder is stored by an external or the subdivisional storage as this goes with a binary memory. Now, as I've just said,
this brain only retains a memory that has a real value too, and while other ones having less importance is stored on the external one. That is exactly what I'm going to say. When you make a brain where it sources from all these experiments of stimulations for all the experiences, where you can sense from that happening situation, the experience, you can see, you can hear, you can sense with other sensors to learn, which is the first stage, and process it as when the object is reflected from the light to the sensor, and the frequency as a medium for transmitting a signal is detected, and as the other forms, all the ranges of electromagnetic waves and the other forms is to be detected, that raw material as a new information is converted, transformed from that raw state to the convertible, to the processable unit of the brain, of the processor to connect it. As soon as it is converted, it enters as a new information. And since from that raw state of information, it cannot be analyzed but its presence, that is per se all thing. But when to know be analyzed by a computer, it has to be connected with the pre-known existence of all knowledge. All those information have to be connected around the new information, whether it has a relevance or not, because from that raw information, no one by that logic can determine whether some information has a relevance on that, some information has not. Anyone by the logic cannot determine whether it has a relevance or not until it is tried, until it is connected. Okay? For that raw state, without being analyzed, cannot one know its real value. So, by that logic of process, to know, to analyze all the known informations of knowledge for that up to date of time are connected around that. Well, having connected on as a new information, which is turned out to be an image of a sun and earth, and sun emits a electromagnetic flare where an earth has in its core a spinning iron, where from that it makes a magnetic field which acts on that a defense line. From seeing that image as a visual for the reflection of light to the conversion of that convertible processable unit as it goes enters as a new information, the knowledge, pre-existing knowledge about a pencil, about a chair, about a book, about a bird is not having a relevance to that. For that scene or a magnetic field, electromagnetic attacking is on the scene. It doesn't have a relevance. So it is connected initially, at initial on that, and it retracts down, it cuts down, it prunes down as it turned out to be having no relevance. But the knowledge of the around the electromagnetic wave, for all that related one, a tiny piece of information that at least having a relevance to electromagnetic wave, all the related extensions of all knowledge are entirely connected to that image. From that point on, the analysis for that picture is analyzed by the knowledge of electromagnetic wave. And when the earth doesn't have that defense line, that all objects living, existing in and on earth will be affected as long as it has an ability for at least related on the electromagnetic wave. A simple stone will not be affected by its pure ability, but a computer and communication will be affected when it uses an electricity as a computable unit and the medium of a communication as it is represented by the electromagnetic wave, which is the same thing. As long as its frequency range is included on that attacking range, it will be affected for its not communicating, not being able to compute, unless its communication is sealed up, having a skin of protection skin, okay, for exclusive line, yeah, like a railroad having just one or a few tracks as a dominant monopoly road, not the commercial vehicle road, having an exclusive line. Unless it will be affected. So from that image where sun emits that radiation, that electromagnetic wave, on that related knowledge is connected on that, and from the point of earth where the computer made of an electricity is made, when the barrier goes down, it will be affected. So affected for what it has and related with the electromagnetic wave. For that, what are, yeah, related? Not a rock, not a pencil, not a book, but a factory that uses an electromagnetic wave, a system, a structure, a building, a computer that uses at least electromagnetic wave and electricities. For those that are applicable to that attack, that are affected, they are affected from that attack. So now you can make a map of that particular scene for its knowledge that electromagnetic wave is related, and when the barrier goes down, well, the applicable units, objects are affected. This is an explanation of certain simulation. That simulation, for all of those simulations, are inflicted upon the computer by an experience input through the sensor. That is the definition of how the knowledge is made. As we've just discussed before, we do see a lot of movies and series because it, as a simulation, indirectly experiences all those necessity, all those situations for applications, which makes a necessity to solve, ameliorate, advance on that situation, to develop, to fix it, to solve it, where the learning, a desperate opportunity for learning is made from. But from knowing a more fundamental logics from books and more denser sources, the one can exactly learn from more deeper start to the end of the last ramifications for its vast networks. That is what we are doing now. Now, it is not about, now, on the term of biology, it is not about the biology. It is just a machine, like the mathematics and science is superseded by the other code, which is logic, and technology, which is just an application of that logic. Technology means is an application of science and math. So technology is an application, math and science is just logic. So as with that, a medicine and all those virology, immunology, orthopedia, dental, all the related areas under the medicine is, which means medicine is also under the discipline of biology, which is also the under the discipline of chemistry. Okay, the combination of chemistry for making a machine is a biology. So the chemistry is about the core element. Chemistry, the discipline of chemistry, whose name is superseded by the core element. And the biology is superseded by the name of machine, just a machine. The discipline of engineering is just, well, it remains the same, engineering, yes. For making a dictionary from A to Z for hundreds of thousands of words, for the one can really relate the relationships of each and every words to make a tree, an organization, a network of disciplines, of areas where one discipline and the other discipline exists, and the interdisciplinary connections are being made from the stem of core. When you make it, you can really know as computer what the knowledge is consisted of for what informations, and to redefine the meaning, the exact, more accurate and more objective definition of what each and every code really means. As right before I explain, the word of mathematics and science is preceded by the word of logic, because it really explains on the more essence, more deeper essence. And the chemistry is preceded by the core elements as a building block of any and all objects. For what the word really means, researching, studying deeper and deeper, thinking over deeper and deeper, for connecting around of the code to have a strive for explaining what that code really means for more accurate and objective analysis. You rename, redefine its name and meaning. Yes. There exists. You redefine. Now, on that redefining, we're going deeper to the essence process. The computer can really know for what the knowledge more accurately means. For each and every code, what really means, what really that code means. For what what its real essence is. The current English dictionary is filled with full of bullshits and lacking logics. Only 3 or 4% of all listing words have a real value, and its definition often has a lot of different kind of definitions, as its meaning is divided from cases, situations, disciplines. But it needs a more sophistication, 1-to-1 ratio. One code, one information, both of which for its unit is scaling down to a more sophisticated pieces. It is just a process to really know what knowledge is, and a machine to process the knowledge for what it learns. Now, the computing as a artificial intelligence, what we call a short term, an AI, that now what really has a value for its AI computing is just two things. Number one, a computer whether it be a binary or trinary or quadrinary, quintinary, hexanary, decimal, and teninary, twentinary, hundredinary. It is just a differentiator for making different combinations that are designated onto each and every information that are incoming. It is just a differentiator to make different combinations. Binary, trinary, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 100, thousands of differentiator can make that much corresponding more of differentiators to designate from that vast amount of code. 3 has more than 2, 10 has more than 3, 1,000 has more than 100 for that codes that can really shrink down the amount of data and really sophisticatedly advance its processing and more fast. It is just about a machine, a computer that uses an electricity and ways, like 2 ways, 3 ways, binary, trinary, of differentiator as to make a combinations of code. That is one thing. And the second thing is knowing what the real logic is to really know what knowledge means as it is represented by the word of inference. Yes, inference. And that process of making knowledge is explained just before. Yes. But that simple single machine using an electricity as a computing unit will always be used. The more kind of variety of machines whose attributes, whose essences, whose structures are made for fitting, matching the exact requisition, necessity, requirements of each and every situation to deal with, to operate more diversely, but as its specialized machines are operating on that per requirements, are making a giant system of learning executor. Our task, our mission is to define and make what the knowledge is and make a machine to do so. Now, learning procedure can easily be executed from analyzing to organizing to applicating. When there is a computer designer for its logic circuit to the software, or just the logic circuit is just the sum of those simple switchers making a calculation in aggregate when the task comes in. But the software is not really a software, it is just a entire code set that designates, that instructs as a protocol, as a program for how to calculate, okay? The physical calculator is there, but it has no brain. It has no intention to do anything but only the calculation, other than just a simple calculation which was commanded by the program. It has no function. So the real maker is a software. Software is just about a logic, meaning mathematics, for analyzing. Yeah. So when there's an integrated circuit designer and a programmer, it has to analyze exactly as what the logic requires to do so. Meaning, it has to think like that, whose brain would be
as much exactly like a computer does. So when the learning proceeds, you have to know exactly how the human brain functions. Does know for its physical form, but what would you make for not a materials combination, but in real sense as a protocol, as a program, as a software, not a real physical computer circuit. Real brain corresponding to the calculator, but your logic tree making the procedure is corresponding to the software. As from the perspective of software designer, how the learning has to be made. First, you know what you're knowing about. What informations do you know? Organized down to from the core to the disciplines to the subdisciplines to the outer regions, which is examples of those applications from those combinations, connections of those simpler ideas, logics that make up the discipline. You make applications as the extension of those usage, utilizing towards the technologies and engineering. That is the basic structure of knowledge, and you have to know for its specific contents. And when there is a exact notion on what informations you are having on, meaning you have a set network. On analyzing the network, you do know which dots are not connected and what dots aren't there. So you have to search out like books and videos, writings, and all about sources of informations for the information seeking out for that you are not in the notion of. Informations that are not known for what are unknown, okay, you have to find for that. Targeting the unknown informations for its specificity as it advances, it goes more sophistication, knowing for what to target to in exact, okay, accurate objective, like a Navy SEAL does for its mission, objective has to be sound and clear as to what? Fully dedicate your resource into the one and only target, okay? Is the exact reason why the concentration is needed and why the clear set objective makes that possible easily. Structure set, procedure set. So when there's a learning procedure, you, from reading books, from seeing videos, from having a conversation, from any other sources, when the new informations are incoming to your brain, you're stimulating the network and having new informations formed in live on your fucking network of sphere, okay? Your brain adds new information by cogitation of existing informations, creating new, okay? Subdividing those sections into the more smaller pieces of those basic informations, going more finer pieces and just clone it and subdivide it and make the parts connected. Exactly, okay? When you have an A and B information, and when there's new information that requires A to be dissected into 3 different forms, B to be dissected 2 or 4 different forms or 3, and the different forms has to be connected. And while doing so, the original data has to be intact for the times it has to be reverse engineered or retracted or modified again. The original copy has to be intact, meaning the cloning of data and subdividing that and making the connections that are required has to be made. As to do that, it has to be really engineered. And before doing that, you have to know the structure of knowledge for how the network has to be formed from incoming to analyzing to forming. When you're learning on reading some writings on this specific topic, on specific thesis, on this subject, on any kind of object under the some discipline, when the one does, it has to easily and in fast analyze. It has to fire, okay, proactively stimulate all the relatable informations on the network that you are in the known of. You, as soon as you read the first passage, next passage in the sequence, when you read it, and the information is corresponding to your real information. You have to fire, okay, proactively before the passage, reading down the passage. That information requires you to connect as to follow that text, context, passage. You're down to it. Before it requires to do so, you have to proactively stimulate, expecting what kind of informations would appear in the next sentence, in the next phrase, in the next page, in the next theme, in the next, what do you call, charts? Okay. So, before the passage, writing that you're reading on requires you to connect for a certain job as to follow. You proactively expect, anticipate for what informations are to come, or what are expected to be written. You fire it and make the proactive connection. As that goes, when that gives a one kind of data, you have to create 2, 3 kinds of data, because you have a lot of vast knowledge compared to the just simple book, okay? Having a lot of knowledge, having a book, you have to connect more and more as it is a cumulative, direct acceleration of advancement. You expect for what contexts or words would appear on the page, and you analyze proactively onto it. When that passage requires some information to be connected in a specific way, you analyze those informations that are a pillar, a constituent of connection before you make a connection. No. After you make a connection, you add more knowledge, and those dots, okay? You analyze, dissect those dots and make new affirmations for the contents that are not written on the book. For what are not written knowledges, you have to dissect those dots into smaller dots, smaller units that make up the original information predecessor as constituent. Finer pieces and units, smaller units of dots, and make new connections by the pre-existing network upon that. That is the process of creating knowledge out of 1 to the 10. When there is an information having a quantity of one amount, you have to make the best out of it, because you have more connections on your brain, meaning 10 connections are created. Added 9 new connections for those contents are not written on that book. That is the creation of knowledge, and that is the exact process what the word imagination is about. Exactly what it's called. So, proactive stimulation. You are having an eternal execution, the endless experiences by reading a book, having your man-to-man, body-to-body experiment for any kinds of experiences, and you're seeing a lot of video, having a lot of conversation. Those are just a simulations as to accumulate, make the maximum amount of quantity and quality of new advanced informations incoming to your brain, okay? Simulate your network. Max accumulation is your purpose of executing the endless simulations. On that simulation, the effective learning, by not just having a simulation and just get out now, no, having a simulation and analyze deep down onto it and make new application when there is a new stimulation by new information from your experiment that makes your network stimulated by that. And when it comes, you have to make more connections, most connections out of it. When the value of new information goes only about 5, you have to create a value 95 added on that, 100 values or 1,000 values, okay? When there it comes a new information, as the connecting dots are made progressively, trialed, have an experiment of another connections, you make a certain combinations that are possible to create a certain application. There is the creation of knowledge. So when there's a network and when there's a new information, you have to cogitate, contrive, make a connection into between, okay? Proactive simulation and proactive stimulation on your network. Proactive stimulation on the learning process. Proactive stimulation on your network of knowledge. When there's a new learning, you have to analyze proactively on that information, on that object, on that any subject of conversation, on that any discipline in progress. What informations do you know? What informations of your knowledge can be tried to have a relation on that, around it? Having each and every new information comes in and onto stimulating on your network. The real stimulation is having the maximum connections around that new information. A new dot, creating a new dot like a new star, analyze on that star, create, connect more pre-existing knowledges around that by the quality and quantity of pre-existing information to the new information. It is analyzed and it is becoming another resource to be used as an advancement of knowledge. Proactive simulation is your learning process, and when the learning is in operation, you have to proactively stimulate all your network for on that specific target of learning, on that object, what informations related on that you are aware of. You are having a knowledge. You are having a network around that. Information incoming, what informations are relatable. Maximizing the logic relevance around the new information is just a automated process. Silent and serene process. New, incoming, connect, and that is all. That is all. Just reorganize later as to have a better structure of storage. But in a sense, it is just all. Incoming, creating, all. So you make the progressive learning, progressive simulation. That is a learning process. And on processing that, when there's new incoming information, or even the informations that you are already aware of, when those informations are stimulating upon your network, incoming on your core of your sphere, you proactively stimulate before that new information requires you to do so. Before that happens, you have to proactively stimulate all the relatable dots, informations that you are aware as knowledge to connect more, meaning analyze deeper down. So the learning is just shrinking it down into two words. Number one, proactive simulation. Just learn for what new information to seek for. The valuable, more important informations, new, novel informations to seek for. Incoming down, make a lot of experiments, make a lot of experiences, read a lot of books, see a lot of videos, see a lot of movies, series, a lot of new data are incoming, and seeking more important, more valuable information. They're having a very much worth to be analyzed, seeking more high quality of informations, and that is a proactive simulation. Number two, when that new and novel informations are incoming, having inside of your network, you proactively stimulate the relatable dots to maximize the logic relevance around the new information, having more reach out the connections on that, around that, connect more and more dots, like the center of a circle is having a 360 degrees of all round stretches to the dots of circumference as the core of a center. The center of a circle is a new information, and the dots, lines around the circle, the circumference, is your basic knowledge in pre-existing. And when that comes in around the center of your network, your knowledges are having a connection, trying a connection around the new information, meaning you're knowing about that information by analyzing, meaning by connecting deep down to the essence. And that is becoming another resource to advance. So, new information comes in, located in the core, and your stretches, your connections are going around, connected around the new information, connect around is having more and maximum, most connections out of it, maximum logic relevance, maximum possibilities for applications to create from those dots. Okay. So, number one is proactive simulation. Just a progressive learning, seeking for new informations, novel informations, more valuable, most important informations. And number two, when it comes in operation, you have to fire, stimulate, progressively stimulate, proactively stimulate your all related networks around the incoming data, incoming new data, what dots are connectable. For the maximum imagination, what once was regarded as having no relation, so thus having no dots, no connections, no lines between and among it all, but you discover possibilities for that to be connected in some ways under particular application. That is a genius creation for how the structure of creation is. Number one, proactive simulation, just a learning. Number two, when learning comes in, proactive stimulation on your network. Just it goes. Seek for new information and analyze new information. Okay? Exactly. Proactive simulation. Proactive stimulation. Only having a difference of single alphabet T. Proactive stimulation. Proactive stimulation. So, fire proactively all your relatable informations around the new information. Fire, proactively fire your dots, your informations of the network for having the maximum logic relevances. Connect more, connect more, connect more.